City Lalangoxolo Shenge. Tributes are continuing to pour in for the IFP founder and traditional AmaZulu Prime Minister Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. He passed away on Saturday at the age of 95 and will be buried on Friday. The veteran politician was passionate about tradition and culture. Let's speak now to Chair of the National House of Traditional Leaders and Khoi-San leaders, Kgosi Thabo Seatlholo. A very good morning to you, Kgosi, and our condolences go out to the House of Traditional Leaders as well as to the whole nation. Talk to us about the legacy that Ushenge leaves behind. You had the honor of being able to work with him on a very intimate and close basis.
Thank you very much. Good morning to yourself and South Africans who are watching in. You know, he leaves a very rich legacy in terms of our institution as the traditional leadership. Of course, as you say, we worked very closely with him. He has taught us a lot. More importantly, to stand our ground in terms of the land of our forefathers, to stand up for our cultures and traditions, to make sure that as a traditional leadership, we take part in the democratic system and stand for rural people, their development and so forth.
It's at times like this, Kgosi, where it's the end of a life for an individual and an illustrious individual such as Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, where we actually tend to go back into history as well and plug in the holes and remember our history and remember where we come from as a people and as a nation. Talk to us about the role of traditional leaders, perhaps in pre-colonial South Africa, and how that then morphed and what role traditional leaders started playing during the course of the apartheid era.
The pre-colonial era, the traditional leadership was the only system that existed. The royal house was a hive of daily activity where the community would be coming in to take decisions and engage on basically everything, be it administration of land, you know, the rituals, praying for rain and all of that. Engaging in economic activities, that's another important issue. When are we going to plant? How are we going to plant and all of that? But post the colonial era whereby we are in a democratic dispensation, that is when, you know, there was start of a blur as to who is responsible for doing what, because now you've got councillors, you've got government and all of that. So I think part of the legacy he leaves with us is to make sure that we do not become ceremonial people, but we actively participate in the development of our areas together with our people. So that is part of what we are doing and what we will continue in honoring his legacy.
And what is the current relationship between traditional leaders and government? What are your current responsibilities right now?
Well, the relationship, to be honest with you, it's hot and cold. Sometimes you are speaking the same language, but sometimes there are no agreements, or there are agreements, but they are not implemented. But we continue with our daily responsibilities because we live within the community. As I'm speaking to you now, I'm in my village. So we wake up with the people, we try and do whatever we can to make sure that there's delivery of services in whatever form. If you need to assist with people, with documentation, we'll be doing that this morning. If we need to assist people with land for whatever purposes, be it residential or commercial, that would be part of the responsibility of the traditional council. But generally to advocate for development of our rural areas in whatever form, be it in education, building of the school, because you'll find that some of our rural spaces, some of the children are still learning under the trees and so forth. So part of the work is to make sure that government does what it's supposed to do, hold
and
them accountable.
I'd like to touch on this issue of land administration, which is an issue that Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi championed. He, along with wanting more rights, more privilege and more power for traditional leadership. Talk to us about the status quo right now as far as land administration is concerned and the role specifically that Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi played in this regard.
Currently, the 13% of the land is with rural people, but the legal ownership of it is still with the minister as part of the colonial history. Remember, that is the outcome of the 1913 Land Act, whereby the minister, the then minister of the apartheid regime, would be having control or legal ownership of the land of traditional leaders and their people. So part of the work that Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi did was to say, government, reverse the colonial injustices, give legal ownership to traditional leaders and their people so that they can preside over their land, especially for the purpose of development. Because now if you, as a community, can, even if you can all agree that you want to build a mall, if you do not have the approval of the minister as the legal owner of the land, there is nothing you can do. And as you know in business, that business does not wait. So sometimes it will take up to 2 years for the minister to approve. Then the investor is long gone. He or she has invested her money elsewhere.
And talk to us about the Ingonyama Trust as well, and the role that it plays and how it's going to move forward now that Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi is no longer here.
I think the Zulu monarchy and Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi himself, we lived with him for a very long time. He has taught the royal family the ropes as to, in case he passes on or the late king passes on, what should happen. The constitutional issues are there. We know what we need to do. I think the new board was installed about 3 or 4 months ago. So they are new in the office. They are continuing with the work to make sure that the land is administered in a proper manner. The way it's done, it's correctly. It's just administrative issues that needs to be sorted out. Then I think we should be good to go.
There have been some issues around traditional leaders being accused of, quote unquote, not doing right by their communities, especially communities where minerals are found beneath the ground, where mining companies are given the rights to mine the land. But you find that the communities are not benefiting and not being paid the royalties that are due to them. Talk to us about this particular situation and what the stance of the late Prime Minister was regarding that.
Those issues are there where you find that a lot of communities, for instance, we were in the Kgosi district about 3 weeks ago as the National House to do some work on the Women's Month there. We found those problems there whereby traditional leaders and their communities are complaining. In fact, the president went there for the Imbizo before we went. We went after. The same issues were raised in the Imbizo. We were also there, the same issues were raised. It would be easy to blame the traditional leader, but if you look at the situation, even in Tolobeni currently, you would find that the department itself is imposing itself in the community. Because remember, the minerals are state-owned. They are not necessarily owned by the traditional leader or the community. So they just come with, the big mining companies. They impose themselves. They bribe, certain community members, sometimes even ourselves. And you find that the community now becomes a mess. They cannot speak with one voice as they used to.
I'm going to have to leave now, Kgosi, but what's the succession plan now that the Prime Minister is no more? How is the next Prime Minister going to be elected or selected?
In terms of the Zulu culture, it's the king who will pronounce himself after the mourning period. The mourning period will be declared in due time. After the mourning period, His Majesty will be telling us who will be the new principal traditional leader of the Zulu kingdom.